Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Live Boldly with Sara. Today, grab your journals because I'm going to share with you some incredible stories from a recent day that I had with the USC Men's Water Polo Team and the coaches. I led them down into the Grand Canyon on a one-day, really deep dive trip in team building, mindset, resilience, problem solving. I did it as a mom because, as you probably know, my son is co-captain of the team. I talk about that a lot and how proud I am of my boys, actually, all three of them. I'm so freaking proud of them. And so when the coach talked to me about, hey, we want to do an adventure with these guys, we want to deep dive with them, they've already climbed a mountain before. And so they said, well, he asked me, he said, well, you know a lot about the Grand Canyon. Could you possibly take the team down as a mom? And of course, like, how could I say no to that? I mean, watching your son go through this process of being on a team that and in a passion that he deeply loves, right? In something that a sport that he is so passionate about, of water polo for him, from the age of 12 and under, all the way now through college age, and seeing how that one sport, his passion, has transformed him from a boy to a teenager to a young adult to now a man, and then watching this team go through this transformation as individual leaders and then learning how to work together. It was a really cool experience, I got to tell you. So go grab your journals because we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to share some of the learnings that I had. And I'm even going to share some little snippets of pretty cool one-liners that I had to write down in my phone that the guys gave me throughout the day that will make you laugh. Because in the end, isn't that what it's all about? It's about the experience and really finding joy in this thing called life that we have. So let's dive into this. I decided to do this as a mom, right? So not under my business, nothing like that. I did it as a mom, completely volunteer, because I wanted to share what I know, what I have learned about this canyon and how it is such a metaphor for life. So it's 6,000 feet down. It is 18 miles across, 277 miles long. It is 20 layers of rock dating 1.8 billion years. When you think about life, right? When you think about how we journey through this experience of life, it truly is a journey through the canyon. You start on one side, you look down in, you have fears, you have apprehension, you have goals and dreams and excitement and, like all awe, right? So much awe, so much goes through you when you are in this thing called life. You deep dive in your journey. And then you come out the other side and you truly are a transformed human being from birth till death. And as we think about this journey through this canyon and how it is a metaphor for life, it is also a metaphor for so much of what we approach in our life, right? The problems that we approach, the journeys through our businesses, through our personal relationships, our experiences, our marriages, our breakups, like all of it. And so how I approached this with the guys, which was very cool, we divided up into 4 quarters, just like a game. Isn't life a game, right? And we divided it. So the quarter 1 was actually hiking down into the Grand Canyon. Quarter 2 was an optional hike that we had. You didn't have to do it. You could be a bench warmer if you wanted to, or, perhaps you got kicked out of the game and you went and sat in the creek for that quarter instead. Quarter 3 was another part of the canyon where we all sat in the creek together. And then I led them through some group work and some really cool things on the side that I'm not really going to share with you because that's between them and us. But it was a really cool quarter of the deep dive. And then quarter 4 was hiking out of the canyon. Now, if you talk to some of the guys, they're like, there were like 16 overtimes in there, Sara. Like, those were the longest quarters of our lives. And for some of them, it was, right? And so when we did this whole journey through the canyon and I divided up into quarters, we also talked about how we as team members, right? Like within the unit, we are all our own individual leader and we are leaders for one another. There are times in a game, there are times in life where some people, say it's your family members, your friends, your people at work, business, whatever it is, where perhaps they need a timeout. they've been called out of the game. And the rest of us need to step up and help to, to really offset that space, and to support and to uh, really show up even more, right? Because we now have somebody within our team that is in timeout. They need to be a bench warmer for that quarter. So there was so much learning that happened, especially when we're talking about that space of resilience, right? Where perhaps your physical body starts to give out and you need that support. You need those extra words of, hey, you can do this. You can, step up. And as other team members, they step up and help through words, through advice, through whatever it is. And maybe it's giving them water or handing them something to eat, whatever it is. And not only that, but in the space of mindset, right? Like there's so many times in our life where we might be hitting a wall and we need to overcome and to break through those barriers and to see what we are capable of. And so as we broke this day up into the 4 quarters, again, some of the guys were like, there were like so many overtimes in there, Sara. Oh my gosh, that was like the longest quarters ever. But as we broke it up into that space, and we really did a lot of deep dive into when we are looking at, the quarters of our life, if it is in a marriage, if it is, looking at the relationships that we are in, or maybe there's a problem or a hard time in your life a challenge that you're walking through right now. And you're like, to get to the end seems impossible. To win the game seems like it is such a huge thing right now. Like, how are we going to do this? I always tell them, break it down, take it in smaller steps, right? Make it manageable for you. And so that's what we did with this canyon on this day. And that's why I divided it up into the day that I did, because if we just if we're standing on the top of the canyon and we're looking at our problems and we're looking at our life, or we're looking at things that are happening within our life, they can seem extremely overwhelming. And you're like, how am I ever going to do this? How am I going to go down into this canyon? How am I going to spend the day down there? And how am I ever going to get up out the other side? If we look at it as the big, right, in like the huge grand scheme of things, literally, because it is the Grand Canyon, it can seem unattainable. Like, just like, how am I going to do that? When we break it down into the smaller spaces and into quarters, or whatever it is that works for us, we can approach every quarter as our own individual game, right? And then when we're finished with that, we can approach the next one. And then pretty soon we hit the 3rd quarter, and then we hit the 4th quarter, and then we find out, oh my gosh, I did it. Now, when we were in this space, we also literally, put it as a mirror of a game. Some quarters in life are harder than others. Some are really long. Some feel like, how am I ever going to get through these next few minutes or these next 6 months within life, right? If we're metaphorically putting it into a lifetime, how am I going to get through the next year? How am I going to get through this cancer diagnosis, or this divorce, or this loss, or this grief, or this sadness? I promise you, like I promise you, like I promise you, it is a quarter. It is a time in your life. It is not the entire game of life. And those are the things that we need to remember. Because here's the thing, when we see it in that way, we're more apt to shift the mindset. We're more apt to look at it like it's something that is achievable, not something that's going to take us down. And so if we can remember that the suffering is only momentary, the suffering is not going to last forever. It is where we are right now in this moment. And how do we work through the suffering to overcome it in order to step into that next space? And so that's why, we did it when it was really hot out. And I will say, if you are going to go to the Grand Canyon, do not, unless you know what you're doing, do not take it on without being prepared. That is key. All right. And so I prepared these guys for that. I prepared them in, hey, there are going to be some, hours within this day that are going to feel very, very hot. They are going to be hot. And what are we going to do? How are we going to prepare and problem solve through that to be able to continue to hike and continue to go through our journey and to continue to go through, quote, this game of the day. And so when we were going through some of those moments of suffering, we prepared ourselves. Like, we had things that we knew that we could do. If it was wetting ourselves down, sitting in the creek, not hiking during certain times of the day, making sure that we were being safe. And you have to be prepared for those pivots. And that's why we do this work that we do in learning how to problem solve and be prepared along the way. And so it made it out to be an incredibly beautiful day, filled with laughter, filled filled with learning, filled with tears. Yes, there were some tears. Uh, and more than anything, it was the connection that we gained together as a team. Because there is a rule that I have: no man left behind. It is just how I am. I'm always the last person out. I'm the last person out on the retreats. I was the last person out when I was taking these guys through the canyon. And I hiked out actually with a coach who was actually hitting a wall. I'm not going to tell you which coach it was, but there was one coach that was like, this is really hard. I'm like, yes, it is hard. And you know what? There are so many other hard things that we do in life as well, right? And so when we do the hard, it allows us to step into and through the hard even more easily, okay? When we have already experienced it, because we know that if I've done the hard in the past, I can do the hard today and moving forward. And so it was interesting because one of the stories that I have is we were coming out of the Bright Angel Trail, and we hit what's called it's Havasu Pie Gardens. For those of you that have hiked the canyon in the past, it used to be called Indian Gardens, and now it's called Havasu Pie Gardens. And there were a couple of people that were really bonking. When I mean bonking, I mean like hitting a wall. Like, I'm tired. I don't know if I can even move, like, to get up the rest of this canyon. And here's the thing: when you know what you're doing, you can work through those problems in a way that does not hold you back, right? You can work through them in a very timely manner. And so I told them, I said, hey, you know what? You're sweating so much, you're losing salt. Let's get some soup in you. Even though it was pretty hot, I'm like, I'm going to make up some soup for you, some Lipton soup, and you're going to eat the Lipton soup because the salt is what you need. And then we're going to be on our way. And sure enough, the Lipton soup, they called it magic. They were like, what is that magic soup that you gave them? It was Lipton soup, because our bodies lose a lot of salt in sweat. And when we are through sweat, and also during the heat of the day, and they were losing salt too quickly for their body. And so giving them that worked, and we were out on our way very quickly. And so that's why you want to go with people that also know what they're doing. And that's also why you want to have coaches that know what they're doing and models in your life that know what you're doing, because there's going to be those times where you're going to hit a wall and you're going to need the help, and you want to learn right through them. And you also want to make sure that you have people that are prepared, and you are learning then how to be more prepared in the future. And so that was awesome. Like, just watching them then, as soon as they had the soup, one of the guys like took off, and I was like, yo, what just happened there? I mean, give him some soup and he's on a rebound and he's like out of here. And he made it out before us. So that was pretty cool. So I want to share with you some things that the guys said. I am one that loves one-liners. I love hearing one-liners and putting them into my phone and then laughing later on about it. So I shared this with the guys because I thought it was so freaking funny. This is the journey of the canyon, right? So when they first started and we were hiking down in, we started at sunrise. Actually, we started in the dark, and then we watched the sunrise down inside of the canyon. It was so cool to watch, like, men from the age of, I don't know what the youngest is, like 18-ish, I would say, all the way up through the coaches, just being so jazzed about a sunrise. And hearing them, right, like, talk about, man, this is the coolest thing ever. I haven't seen anything. I'm stoked. I haven't seen anything this beautiful ever. And just like seeing them off of their phones and not in a space of we're competitive against one another. We're just going to enjoy the moment. And we're not competitive right now, like, except for as a team to make it through this. it was just the coolest thing to watch them sit in awe and in the moment. And so one of the guys, as we were hiking down in, and he was like, oh my God, he was so funny. He started going, this is straight out of Notes from an Abundant Life. Like literally, he was like, this is like straight out of Notes from an Abundant Life. Wow, this is so beautiful. And it was so cool to hear that. And another one said, I'm going to try and record this whole thing. And he did, by the way. Like, I should drop the YouTube in here and show it to you. He is on YouTube, and I will actually, yes, I will drop the YouTubes in the notes, the YouTube video that he made, put it in the notes, and you guys can all watch it. It was so awesome to see. And yeah, he recorded so much of it. And then another guy goes, bruh, WTF. I didn't know it would look like this. He was like, bruh, this is the coolest. Like, this place it's beautiful. I had no idea. I heard, bro, this is like Lord of the Rings. And then because of course they're all water polo players, they kept saying, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming down the trail, right? And then I kept hearing, okay, we're water people for a reason. Because of course, like they kept comparing themselves to land people and hikers, right? Like we're water people for a reason. Where is the river? Where is the river? And then they kept asking, how cold is the river? Like I heard that asked like so many times because remember, pool guys are a little I learned this through my son. Pool guys look at river, lakes, and various things like that, like the muddy waters, very differently because they like the pool, the chlorine, they like it clean. And, and so when they looked over the edge and they were like, oh, it's green. Like it's so, does it always look like this? It's brown or whatever. I was like, yeah, it does. It varies in color from green to brown, but it never is perfectly blue or clear. And so I had to laugh at that. I kept hearing, we're almost to the river. I can see the river. There's the river. Oh my God, the river. Because of course they're water guys, right? So this is as we were getting down in. And then when we were down at the river, they were trying to catch all the fish, the trout, because trout are invasive down in the Colorado River right now. And they really do want you to catch them. And then this is going to sound very sad, but they want you to throw them on the shore because they are invasive and they are harming the ecosystem down there. And so they were trying to catch the fish. And they're like, there's a fish. Oh my God, there's a fish. And they caught some of the fish, which was very fun. The optional hike was definitely one of the hardest things that many have done. And I heard, yo, you're going to see Jesus tonight. You guys are going to see Jesus tonight because the hike was the hike that we did, the optional hike was so hard. Another one of the guys, when he didn't go on the optional hike, because he was like, I got thrown out, I'm sitting in the creek. You guys go on your optional hike. And afterwards he was like, yep, I made the right decision. This might have been the biggest accomplishment ever. I heard that one of the hardest and the biggest accomplishments. I thought I was above listening to my parents when they told me to break my shoes in. That was very funny because some of them did get some pretty big blisters. Um, Another one, I'm doing this by myself. I'm doing this by myself. I'm getting out of here by myself. And what he meant by that, like he was accepting help, right, from everyone around him in the team. And that said, he was like, I am not because like the helicopters kept coming overhead. And actually somebody, not in my group, but somebody did get helicoptered out that day and from heat exhaustion. He's like, I'm getting out of here by myself. I got myself down in here. I'm leading myself out. And one of my favorites at the end, he said, this SHIT, this shit's humbling. Holy crap. Right. And he was like, this is humbling. Holy crap. And I've heard that from many people that being out there in a space like that, it does humble you. It breaks down that what I call the unhealthy ego side of ourselves, where we think that, it's all about us because it's not. You need to have that connection with nature. You need to have that connection with the outside world, with one another, because connection is such a human necessity. And we think that we can just be connected to self and that's enough. And it's just not the case. We are intended and meant to be connected with others, with community, with teams, with the outside world, with nature, with animals, right? And to feel that connection on a very deep, deep human level. And so that was one of my favorite days, I have to say, down inside of that canyon, because I watched the guys transform. It was such a blessing for me, and I'm so grateful as a mom to have been able to take my son there and truly to take his best friends there, because they are his best friends, and to witness that transformation with the team throughout that day. Uh, what's even more wild to me as I was hiking down, I was thinking to myself, the very first time that I hiked, and I told the guys this, I said, the very first time that I hiked this canyon, I was really sick. I had a very bad intestinal bug that, thank you, my children actually gave me, the same son that I was guiding in. They gave it to me. They had been sick, and then I got sick, and it was like 120, 125 degrees going down on the South Kaibab Trail. And I had some other things going on as well within me. And I was so ill that I remember hiking down thinking, I will never come back here again. This is it. Like, I am finished when I get out of here. And I was so sick down there. I'd lost like 10 pounds throughout that trip. And I was so sick down there that my adventurous self couldn't really even get out of bed. I mean, I laid around most of my rest day or my 0 day that I was down there, and I didn't go hike. I hardly even walked around. And so when I think about where I was, the suffering that I experienced that first time that I went down into that canyon, and now the work that I do with people and how I have led hundreds of people through that space. Had I not gone through that suffering the first time, I would never have been able to relate as deeply with my clients when they're in their suffering states as well. I wouldn't have that level of empathy because I wouldn't have experienced it myself. And so I'm actually grateful for that first time where I suffered that deeply, because it gives me the ability to understand others when they're in their suffering state as well. More so than anything, when I hiked out of the canyon that day, and I remember literally saying to everybody around me, I'm not coming back. I don't think I can do this again. Like, it was so hard. I don't think I can come back. And now, having gone through that space as many times as I have, I've lost count. I can actually hike down in that canyon with like practically my eyes closed because I've done it so many times. And I don't feel that level of hard that I once did because I've done it so many times. I know that I can do it again, which is why that is such a great analogy of when you do the hard first, right? When you do the hard, you know that you can do other hard. And the more that you do the hard, the easier it gets. And the more that you can step outside of your comfort zone and do other hard things too. And that's how we find what we are actually capable of. That's how we get to that championship game. That's how we win the championship game. Because we know, like we know, that if I overcame that in those hard moments, I can most definitely overcome the hard moments where we are up against the most stressful moment and actually win the game, right? And so that's why we do it. And to be able to then come back full circle and take my son down there, like I said, the same son that gave me the intestinal bug the first time, and to witness what I did with that team, there's no greater gift. I would go through that suffering that I went through that very first time over and over and over again to have experienced the joy that I did full circle on that day with that team. So that is the experience that I had as the leader, as the person who got to witness it all. And my hope for all of you is that you have those same beautiful aha moments of awe coming out of those dark days of your life as well, because we all have them. And I know I'll have them down my future as well, right? And because I've experienced it before, I know that I'm able to walk through it even easier the next time. So with that, we do have the retreat coming up in the San Juan Mountains. When this releases, I'm not so sure if there will be any spots left. If there are, message me. The San Juan Mountains are outside where we climb through. It's actually not even climbing. We stay in this beautiful retreat center outside of Telluride, Colorado. Myself and Florence Williams is running this retreat. It is High Camp Hut is what it's called. It is absolutely one of the most beautiful spaces I've ever been to. So I highly encourage, if it's not filled, to message me, Sara at sarahschultingcrayons.com, and let's see if it's the right fit for you. And then we do also have, oh gosh, for a second there, I thought this wasn't recording. I was like, what? How could this not be recording? And at the same time, I was thinking, well, if it wasn't recording, it just means that I need to do it again, right? Oh, well, there you go. And also, just so you know as well, if you are looking for a speaker, I am speaking now, my friends, and I am so excited about it. Motivational speakers, I bring the Grand Canyon to your stage. There are these incredible drone videos that I share on the screen. I go through the stories. We talk about leadership, resilience, teamwork, imposter syndrome, overcoming those obstacles before us. I love, love, love talking about the problem solving that we learn through this space. So if you are looking for someone for your organization, for your business, uh, anything, please message me, because I'm super excited to be bringing this to all of you. And it is so much fun. I got to tell you, it is so much fun. I'm going through a rebrand right now. That's going to be releasing the end of August. I cannot wait to push this into the world and to share all of the snippets and of this incredible journey with you as well. So please share this with your friends. If you have not subscribed to the podcast, please go do so. Rate, review, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Share this, push it out into your social media, and tag me if you do so I can reshare in mine. I love you. Thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for being here. You are an amazing human being. I love, love, love you. Thank you.